A kidnapping goes very wrong when the victim's husband decides to run off with the stolen ransom money.
Your husband just left you to die, Mrs. Davis.
What?
And there's only one way she can stay alive.
I can help you.
Keep talking.
Look, I know of my husband. He's on the bus.
Okay, he's on the bus to where?
He's going to Seattle.
If you're wrong,
I'm not.
we got him.
And now that they've found him, they're not about to let him go.
Who's gonna have to take out the bus?
We know you're down there, Jackie boy!
Now, this small band of survivors must do whatever it takes to stay alive.
Grab my arm!
No, I'm scared. You left her to die.
She brought it on herself.
Jack! All I want is the money, Jack!
Giving it to him won't make any difference in our survival.
Nobody walks away.
Michael O'Keefe, Ed Begley Jr., Linda Pearl, Miguel Ferrer. Incident at Deception Ridge.
Hey guys, this is Communications, and welcome to my review of Incident at Deception Ridge. This is a film sent to me by a YouTuber named Bill Bon Jovi, I believe. And this is a while back. I haven't reviewed this. I've reviewed Deadly Spawn, but I haven't reviewed this one yet until now. And I checked this one out, and it is what it is. It's a TV movie, and it definitely does feel like it. It's pretty generic. It's a generic thriller. It's a generic run-of-the-mill thriller that I really don't... I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. It was watchable. It was decent, but it had a very, in my opinion, a disappointing letdown of an ending. So anyway, basically the film is directed by John McPherson, and it stars Michael O'Keefe, Ed Begley Jr., Linda Pearl, Michelle Johnson, and Miguel Ferrer. And Miguel Ferrer, you know, I like Miguel Ferrer. Is, you know, RoboCop, you know, among other films like The Night Flyer. And I like his character. And so basically, it's a pretty simple plot. What happens is there's an act of bitter betrayal and a case of mistaken identity, and it unleashes a torrent of murder. And I guess after 5 years in prison, ex-con Jack Boulder, played by Michael O'Keefe, is a free man, bus-bound for Seattle. Unfortunately, his newfound peace will be short-lived. And then also aboard the bus is Jack Davis, played by Ed Begley Jr., a bank manager whose wife, played by Linda Pearl, her name is Helen, has been kidnapped by Ray and Del Hayes. Ray is played by Miguel Ferrer, and Del Hayes is played by an actor named Ian Tracy, who looks a lot like James Remar. There was like two actors in this that looked a lot like James Remar. I got confused at one point because there was a hiker that showed up close to the end of the movie to help out the survivors of the bus crash, and then he looked like the bad guy played by Ian Tracy. When Davis, Ed Begley Jr., bolts with the ransom money, his wife is left to the mercy of her abductors, and the innocent bus passengers are plunged headlong into a nightmare set against a breathtaking yet deadly backdrop of harsh mountain wilderness. And then, you know, of course, every VHS box cover art has to say on the back, like, this is a heart-pounding, pulse-pounding thriller. It really isn't. I would say at best it's a time waster. It didn't really bore me, so that's one thing. I didn't find it super boring. I could find maybe some other people might feel that way. But I just felt that the ending was a missed opportunity for me, because the film did a good job building up the characters. I actually cared about the characters, other than Ed Begley Jr. I could care less what happened to him because he was a total dick in this movie. And could care less about his wife either, because you find out she's a double-crossing bitch. So I really don't care about her either. But I did grow to like Michael O'Keefe's character. I grew to appreciate, the efforts of him and the rest of the survivors. The blind, there's a Michelle Johnson, an actress named Michelle Johnson, She plays a blind woman in this, and I thought she did a good job. And then she eventually becomes a love interest in Michael O'Keefe, Jack. And what's really also really interesting about the whole sort of thing with Jack, the character of Jack, is that in the beginning of the movie, you're kind of feeling that as soon as he gets out of prison, there's this girl that meets up with him at a restaurant, and you're thinking that maybe, oh, they're old flames. But you find out that really she's his sister, and her name is, I think it's Colleen. I think it's Colleen. Her character's name is Leanne, and the actress's name is Colleen Flynn. I thought Colleen Flynn did a decent job as Jack Boulder's sister, and Leanne. And you do find out, of course, later through some information that, like I said, she's actually his sister, not his girlfriend. I thought that was an interesting little touch. I also like the kid actor in this. There's a little boy who's put through through the whole sort of scenario, all this craziness. He's played by Jesse Moss, and I liked his performance as well. Now the director, I didn't mind the director either. I think for a TV movie, he managed to keep it well paced. Didn't really slow down that much. He definitely had talent in terms of directing. He definitely was able to use his directing talents to do all kinds of interesting sort of techniques with the camera. He definitely showed a lot. The camera wasn't static. And this guy is known as a cinematographer. He did the cinematography for Fletch Lives. He did the cinematography for John McPherson. He did the cinematography for Short Circuit 2. Batteries Not Included. And yeah, he also did the cinematography for Jaws of Revenge. But, everybody makes mistakes. And he really didn't I don't think he directed that much. Directed a few episodes of some shows. He directed a few episodes of the Incredible Hulk TV series in the 70s. He directed a film called, a couple episodes of the horror anthology Dark Room. He directed Strays. Oh, okay, all right. Well, once again, everybody makes mistakes. For those who don't know about Strays, Strays is a movie I hate. I hate this movie. It's a movie with Timothy Busfield, and it deals with killer house cats. It's what's called Strays. It was stray killer house cats. It's ridiculous. Those horror films where you have a cat that jumps out of the screen to scare you, and it never is scary because it's just totally predictable. Well, Strays thought they'd make a whole movie out of just that. It doesn't work. But anyway, yeah, I can't say he did a good job with that. I would definitely say I would rather watch this again than watch Strays. But anyway, John McPherson did a solid job at the directing. But basically, ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just a really generic plot. It deals with mistaken identity. There's two Jacks in the film. There's Jack Boulder and Jack Davis. There's Michael O'Keefe and Ed Bigwood Jr. Ed Bigwood Jr. hightails it with the money. Thinks he's going to get away with it. Miguel Ferrer and his cohort, played by Ian Tracy, Del Rey. They end up, chasing after him in the bus. They cause it to crash in the wilderness in Washington at Deception Ridge, which I like seeing. Nice little, because I live in the Pacific Northwest, so it's nice to see films take place there. And basically, Miguel Ferrer and Del Rey are chasing after the survivors of the bus crash through the woods, and then you have the whole thing where you find out that there's sort of mistaken identity where, Jack Davis, Ed Bigwood Jr. is trying to keep his identity a secret and trying to fool everybody and trying to put the blame on Jack Boulder, played by Michael O'Keefe. And, of course, later on in the film, it gets figured out rather easily that Ed Bigwood Jr. is the Jack that they're looking for, not the other way around. And then you have a little character development, finding out about, of course, like I said before, about Jack's sister. Then you find, a little bonding between, the kid, Sam, and also bonding between Jack and the blind lady, Natalie, played by Michelle Johnson. And then there's a few gunplay, but nothing really spectacular. There's a cool stunt sequence near the end where they had already made this sort of, they crossed over this river over a log, which is a sequence which really hit home to me because I I did that before in a family reunion. We were all walking around, in the wilderness and Pacific, in the woods, somewhere in Oregon. And, they were like, let's cross this log over this river. And I was a kid and I was like, fuck, I was like scared shitless. I was like, no, I don't want to cross this thing. I'm scared. I'm going to fall. And so that I definitely did, feel that sequence just hit home for me because it just perfectly encapsulated how I was feeling, trying to cross this log, onto the other side, so definitely did. I didn't mind that sequence.